I'm very optimistic to work. It's not easy. Countries of the region must help Colombia. Colombia is a very important country in Latin America, of course. I think now is the third economy in Latin America. It's the second economy in South America. The last figures shows that Colombia is bigger than Argentina. It's only behind Brazil. So, and with this I will finish to talk with you that if Colombia has success with arriving to a peace, we, after Colombia, we are most beneficiados.
The ones that benefit the most.
The most, because of course we can do many things. Ecuador and Colombia can do many things in the positive agenda, not only regarding the negative agenda. I mean drugs, trafficking, whatever. Because we are complementary in many fields. So we can do a lot of things regarding cooperation, regarding trade, regarding, I don't know, many things. We have a lot. When I was in the foreign ministry, I saw a lot of pile of projects, bilateral projects between Ecuador and Colombia that were on the papers, only on the papers. Now we have the possibility to, if the peace process finally is consolidated, we can do really a lot of things. We have many projects that were in the Ecuadorian side were achieved, were finished, but in the Colombian side, because of the presence of the FARC or the guerrillas, it depends, the ELN or the FARC or other, not guerrillas, but bacrims, huh?
Criminal bands. Criminal
yes. I think that we have a lot to do and to profit from each side. So that's what I can tell you. I don't know. Maybe it's better to hear from you concerns, questions, whatever. This was a really exciting experience. I mean, this Grupo Binacional de Diálogo that helps not from the official side, because in the official side you always, that was very helpful for me, because from the official side, from the governmental side, you must be very tough. You must be, you have to know what people are thinking about and put your interests before any action or proposition that you make. But in these type of meetings that are informal, not secret, no, but very free, you learn a lot and you know each other, and you can do many things to create more understanding, in this case, between Colombia and Ecuador.
Hey, thank you so much. I'd like to suggest maybe that we take a 3 or 4 minute break and then come back and have some interaction, question and answer. Does that work? Okay, so those who need to take a dash out for a minute. We're going to have a question to launch some discussion.
question, according to the version of American intelligence, and what's your perception about the 7 or 8 U.S. bases in Colombia in terms of security, regional security, and also Ecuadorian security?
How can I answer that question? Well, you know, Colombia has always been a very close ally to the United States. The foreign policy of Colombia has been always very close to Washington. In Latin America, or at least in South America, Colombia has been the country that designed its foreign policy, always taking the U.S. as the closest ally. That may be because of the problems, no? So they accepted to create or establish military bases in Colombia. Even here in Ecuador, at, let me see, 1998, I think, we accepted not to establish a base, but to use a base in Manta for fighting with drug trafficking. Many people tell or say that this Manta base was part of the Colombia plan, the Plan Colombia. That's very difficult to prove, but at the same time, many people say that from the Manta base came the planes that bombed Angostura. That's as well very difficult to prove. But Colombia accepted because of those reasons, and I don't remember how many years ago, at least 4 or 5, Uribe accepted to establish bases, military bases in Colombia. And there was a very strong reaction against that from South American countries, from UNASUR. UNASUR, in a meeting in Argentina, an urgent and emergency meeting called by Brazil and with the interest of Ecuador as well and Venezuela, called to this meeting to demand President Uribe not to establish these bases, these military bases in Colombia, because especially Brazil, you know, Brazil is a bordering country of Colombia. At that time, President Lula didn't accept firmly this creation of these military bases in Colombia that were very close to Brazil. Of course, very close to Ecuador as well. Venezuela, of course, I mean, the bordering countries of Colombia were very concerned about this. Peru as well, not so strongly, because all these region of Amazonic region of Peru that is also a bordering country with Colombia, is not so, well, there's not many people, but they were all as well concerned. But the decision of UNASUR was very, I think, not the one that decided to Colombia not to accept the establishment of these bases, but there was a legal discussion in Colombia with the procurador or the
solicitor. Is that?
I don't know in Colombia cómo se llama, procuradores en inglés, el procurador en inglés. Como fiscal.
I think it's the solicitor.
It's an authority in Colombia that is very strong. It has strong powers. And finally I think the Corte Suprema, the Supreme Court of Justice, said that it was illegal to establish those bases, and we never knew more about that. I don't know. Those military things are many times very secret, but politically those bases that weren't established. I think they were at least 12 bases. But there are bases, American bases in Colombia, of course.
I have two questions. We have a saying in Spanish that says, es mejor pedir perdón que pedir permiso. So basically what Colombia did, right? They just took and then they asked for forgiveness.
That, by the way, is also in English. Better to ask forgiveness than permission.
I always say that to my dad. Didn't work, but what was the cost of angostura, el perdón? How much did it cost? Like, did they just say like a public? They were kind of like blamed for all the countries, but do they have to pay money for that, or what was kind of like the cost of that? And then the second question is, I'm involved in cultural initiatives for reducing violence. So, and I firmly believe that, especially in the borders, it's very, the arts and culture activities are a way of sensibilize not only the people, the victims, but also the people that are welcoming all these victims. How do you recommend to get financial aid to promote these cultural initiatives? Do you think it's like it's good that Ecuador and Colombia pay for the programs or finance the programs in the same percentage, 50-50, or do you think Colombia, since are the ones like the Colombians are the ones coming, they should pay, or Colombia should pay like 75% and Ecuador 25% to finance these activities?
Well. Where are you from?
Guayaquil.
Ah. Well, your first question, no, it wasn't about money. Colombia didn't pay nothing to Ecuador. We were not asking for money, except on the case of one, but it wasn't really the government. It was the family of one Ecuadorian that was dead in this incident or this action. The family asked for the compensation, of course, in money. And the government asked as well to give the family what they asked for. But as an official compensation, no, Ecuador didn't ask. And really well, the destruction was only these trees in the forest. Well, it was a big, very big area. So regarding that, no, not money, but the apologies, of course, and this information that was robbed from our territory, because we were very interested in knowing many things that were in the laptops. But the same interest had, and more, I suppose, Colombia, because there they supposed to have information about the movements, the structure, I don't know, of the FARC. So what Ecuador asked was apologies and these type of information, and we were really
No.
adolorido. It was
painful.
Very painful, and at the same time we were very emotionally violated. And I remember President Correa, well, it has passed a lot of years, and I can tell you because I was with him when we were receiving news of what was happening. He felt traicionado, betrayed by Uribe. Uribe was in Ecuador a few days ago for the convention or for the Constituyente, the Asamblea Constituyente. Was the only president of South America present here in Ecuador. So, as you can imagine, this kind of action is not from one day to another. He felt betrayed because he felt that Uribe didn't have confidence on him, because what was supposed to be the action of Colombia told the president, this was a very important issue, so presidents should decide, told President Correa, we have this information, please attack or take care of this camp in Ecuadorian territory. And not, as you say, pedir perdón que permiso. He did, Uribe did, and Santos was the defense minister. That is very important to take into account. They did without telling President Correa. And that was, I remember, he was really mad. He was really mad. And he was dolido that he was betrayed by, well, you know, there are no friends, but he had at the beginning of his government a very good relation, personal relation, and he felt betrayed. That is regarding your first question. Your second question, I think, as well as you, that is very important to create ties, cultural ties, cooperation in every field between people of Colombia and Ecuador in the boundary region. Why? Because, first of all, they are very similar, especially in Esmeraldas, in the coast. I remember, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, that part of Colombia is very desatendida.
Kind of abandoned in disrepair.
From the government. Colombia is a very big country, and it's very far from Bogota, from the capital. And I remember that a very small town declared 15 years ago independence from Colombia, I don't know how many, I don't know, hectares and how many people, and they wanted to become part of Ecuador. Because, and it's a real, ¿cómo se llama esta zona?
La zona fronteriza con
Sí,
el
sí,
Ecuador,
sí, sí.
la de abajo de Tumaco.
Tumaco. Tumaco is this region. And Tumaco is more close geographically from Quito than from Bogota. Bogota is very, very far from Tumaco. So it was, well, this was an adequate story, because they feel very close to Ecuadorian people because they are Afro-descendants. They have the same cultures, traditions, the same way of talking. I don't know, they are very, very close. So if you have peace in both sides, projects like your idea are not very good, they are necessary to create that kind of ties. We can see now 20 years ago with Peru. We are very similar in Peru. No sé si tú conoces the zone of Huaquillas, Aguas Verdes, two small, they are not so small, towns in Peru and Ecuador, with the peace that came. It was a sort of a rompió un dique.
Broke the dam, or
yes,
sort of
yes,
thawed the relationship
between both countries, because we are very similar, and in this region as well. In this the coastal area, as I said, in the Amazon it's the same. There are places in which it's crazy, but it's real. People have two identity cédulas de identidad.
identity cards.
Yes, from Colombia and from Ecuador. It's very easy. They are families. One part of the family live in Colombia, another part lives in Ecuador. The indigenous people, for example, they don't feel, and that's for the Peruvian border as well, even more, because we have a line, a border line, and the indigenous, the Indians that live in those regions, they don't know where is the border. They are part of the same ethnic group. So those kinds of projects, I think, and I'm ready to help to work very hard, because that's the only way to consolidate peace. Making, I don't know, dance, music. In Esmeraldas and Tumaco, the music is the same. It's African music. I don't know. So, at the same time, the culture is very important, and as well as the state institutions, social, education, health, of course. For example, in the Peru-Ecuador, there are Peru-Ecuador border, we have built in the both sides hospitals. So in Peru, and they take care also of Ecuadorians. In Ecuador, and they take people from Peru. We have to do the same in Colombia and Ecuador. Finally, if we have the consolidation of this process. But those kind of projects are the ones in a long time, in a long, largo plazo, are the ones that finally will create the ties that will create a real sense of friendly relation.
Well, I would have a question maybe in relation a bit to this, but I'm really involved in refugee resettlement.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I've been working with a big group of Colombian refugees that were living in Ecuador for 2 years, and now I've been resettled in Canada. But what I hear often is like, well, as we know, most of them are resettled, like they're in Ecuador, like in the city. So I think it's like 60 or 70% actually of them are in Quito and Guayaquil.
Mm-hmm.
But as we know, there's a lot of like disparities, discriminations. It's hard for them to get jobs, to get included in the in the society. So I mean, I know that there are not any official UNHCR refugee camps here. Has that ever been a project or something that the Ecuadorian government has been thinking of, or has this never really been a solution option, or then would that only exclude them from the rest of society? And then, as you were talking, there's no cultural or music involvement, or how could we bring those kind of irregular also refugees into the Ecuadorian society?
That's very important, because it's the human component of this whole issue. As I said, Ecuador is a very small country, and it has a very small economy. Comparing with Colombia, for example, we're very, very small. We even don't have jobs for Ecuadorians. So ask the private sector in Ecuador or the government to help these refugees or these migrants, because we are more concerned about migrants than refugees, because the refugees finally they have a status, an international status. But what about the migrants that they don't have papers? It's not easy for a country as Ecuador. It's very difficult, very, very difficult. And we have small population, and if you have 400,000 Colombians here, to which you have to add people from other countries that have come to Ecuador, it's not easy to deal. I was ambassador to Spain for 5 years since 2000. At that time, Ecuador had a crisis, a crack.
Economic crisis.
Very financial, especially. And in the 5 years I was ambassador to Spain, at least 1 million of Ecuadorians went to Spain. Spain was at that time in an economic boom, and we were the first community of migrants in Spain. How to deal with 1 million only Ecuadorians, because you had from other countries of Latin America and from East European countries, and of course from these humanitarian crisis of people coming from the north of Africa. And Spain didn't had, well, with the Latin Americans, they finally get an agreement on how they can treat them in economical field, but not integration, social integration, because even though we talk the same language, we have the same religion. That's very, very important. Very important. We were very similar. We are very similar, but the final integration, it's not easy. It's really not easy. So many people, many Colombians came here, and now the last it was a encuesta,
a survey,
done about Colombians going back to their country from Ecuador after the signing of the peace. More than 90% of Colombians living in Ecuador, they don't want to leave. They want to stay here. So, well, all these issues are so complicated, so difficult to deal, because we are talking about human beings. If they have a job here, why taking the risk to go back to their country if finally these, because what we have, Colombia, and that's very good, of course, but they have only signed a paper. And what about the people, or these human beings of FARC? Are they going? They are two generations that only know how to fight. Are they going to leave the weapon and put to work? It's a process. It's very complicated. I really think that Ecuador has have done a good job, taking, of course, into account the limits we have. And many people, of course, that come to Ecuador come as a transit country. They are going to Canada, or they want to go to the States, or I don't know. Many people are going downwards to Chile, Ecuadorians even. This mobility of human beings is now one that is top in the agenda, international agenda, the whole world, with terrorism, of course.
I think Alejandro.
You're happy with the translate? Okay. Just one thing to compliment. El Plan Colombia dejó en realidad más cosas malas que buenas en mi país.
So Plan Colombia did more damage than it did good in my country.
Contaminación, terrenos estériles, enfermedades, mujeres violadas por los soldados americanos.
Contamination, land stripped bare, women raped, including by American troops.
Especially for the soldiers from America. Y estas personas no pudieron ser, digamos, investigadas y castigadas por la justicia colombiana por razones diplomáticas. Ellos quedaron sin castigo.
And those people weren't investigated, held accountable, or punished within the Colombian justice system for diplomatic reasons.
That was because the agreement of the Plan Colombia was that the American troops had.
Al tratamiento que dará Ecuador a la frontera norte respecto de los acuerdos de paz en Colombia.
So my question focuses especially on the treatment that Ecuador gave to the border region with respect to the peace agreement.
Hace 2 años teníamos un especial acuerdo entre Colombia y Ecuador sobre el tratamiento migratorio en la frontera.
2 years ago we had an agreement between Ecuador and Colombia about migration across the border.
En abril de este año volvimos a cambiar ese acuerdo migratorio.
So in April of this year we changed it.
Changed
it again, this agreement.
No sé cuál sea como la política o cuál sea el camino que va a tomar el gobierno ecuatoriano si los acuerdos de paz se implementan para trabajar con la frontera norte, que en realidad es como la más abandonada del Ecuador.
So I'm curious what the strategy or the position of the Ecuadorian government will be to work in this area of the Ecuadorian northern border, which has been quite abandoned.
Well, this ¿es la respuesta en español? Well, the answer must be addressed to the new governments, not to me, but what I would like is just what I was telling your colleague. Now that everybody hopes that the military actions or the violence has stopped from the Colombian side, I hope so. That's a process that takes time. What both countries must do is begin working in bilateral projects, in health, education, whatever. They have to work together in security issues, because not suddenly the FARC members are going to be peaceful people. Many of them, maybe they will be common delincuentes comunes. So I think Ecuador must work with Colombia. They must deal with different problems. And you're right regarding the abandon of our border with Colombia, and that was because of the risks of what was happening in the other side. And of course, because of the lack of resources. But now, if we have finally created a peaceful climate between both countries, I personally think that Ecuador must work on repairing, if I can use that word, repairing what wasn't done for years. But of course it depends on the resources, and that's when you expect as members of the UN or OAS or whatever, the help of countries that, or organizations that can do many things for both countries, or even other countries, Venezuela and Colombia, especially, but a little bit between Panama and Colombia, but especially Venezuela and Colombia and Ecuador and Colombia. Ecuador must do an effort to compensate, if that's the word, what they have been suffering for so much long.
Okay, I think let's have just one last question. So go ahead.
So, as a diplomat, you had a very strong stance on what happened in Angostura because you were reflecting kind of the government. So you condemned it and you said, well, on the principles of sovereignty and no intervention and everything. But now that you see it as a professional, do you think it was needed or adequate?
A professional diplomat as well.
Well, yes, exactly. Like maybe more as a someone who participated but now can actually see the results of the action. Do you think it was needed in the purpose of defeating the guerrilla? And what would have happened if instead of doing it, the president would have called before the 9 hours that they took and told President Correa what was going on? Do you think the results would have been different?
Yes, and I do not agree, not only as a diplomat and a specialist in this kind of things, Colombia acted wrong. And I condemn the action taken by the government of President Uribe, because if we have had, as we have had very good relations, I begin with that statement. Why don't tell your colleague with whom you were a few years ago with him here in Ecuador as a friend, this is happening, take care. So in terms of international relations, international law, it's unacceptable. And if you can see, there's a project about this one of the Ecuador, Americas y el Mundo, regarding the perception of people in the streets, in the fields, regarding this attack. In that time, there was really a sort of xenophobia regarding the Colombians because of this action. It wasn't a feeling only of specialists, no. The whole people in Ecuador, they hated Uribe. Well, because of course they were very near to President Correa and how he dealt with it. And I think he dealt okay, well. The whole world even condemned the action of President Uribe. So I personally, not as a specialist, as an Ecuadorian, I don't accept that kind of action, no.
For those who are interested in dealing in a little more in the details of that, I'm happy to help connect you with some information, particularly the results from his survey that have those public opinion polls about the event. I can show you those. My own article that I haven't assigned to you, one of the few I haven't assigned to you, I did a discourse analysis of Correa's speeches, and it shows that when he was talking about Colombians, it spiked in 2008, and it was all the security language about Colombians compared to when he talked about migration, really meaning Ecuadorians abroad. That was in different years, election years. So you see the different pattern in political discourse around it. And I'll also share with you the report of the Transparency and Truth Commission that, for those who speak Spanish, I don't know if it's available in English, that Correa appointed. And that gives very detailed information based on their investigation about what happened at Angostura. So for those who are interested, I can provide you with that.
That's a study case.
So thank you again for joining us. I wonder if you would be willing to indulge us and do a group photo together before we leave. Why don't we do that?